So we're gonna make a little correction video here. Not correcting us, but correct information. So there was a question about the grass right down there. We filled all that spot in down there in front of the building. It was super low. Now I'm sitting up here on a bank. The road's right there, and it just continues on uphill. You can see that. So where I'm at right here is off the corner of this house. Okay. Now when the house was built, this porch wasn't here. There was a 10-foot porch that ends where this post, the middle post is. So then they added from that middle post all the way out to the end of this concrete, which is 11 feet. Now the original porch, remember, was 10 feet off of the house. Boom, ended right there where the post is. Okay, so all of this out through here was open. All right, so now back to this water issue. Okay, when this house is graded, the grading comes this direction, away from the house, comes this direction, away from the house. About 15 feet off of this house, 12 feet off of this house, begins the uphill. About 15 feet off of this house, off of the porch originally, begins the uphill, because this is all uphill. 3 feet off the corner of that porch right now, begins the uphill. Right there at that little point right there begins the uphill on this side, and it continues on in front of the porch. All that is uphill. Okay, so the building put in here caused a little tiny bit of an issue, but you just deal with stuff like that. This is a built structure. You can't deal with it. You know, it should have been handled. And I addressed this downspout on the end of it. I addressed this downspout 4 years ago, and here we are still today. Last year, come in and plugged the downspout off. So we're dealing with standing water. Now this area right down here, it's always going to be moist because of the amount of water that comes off of this hillside. It completely saturates this hillside all the way up and around behind me. I'm in a bowl right here. So that water runs down and it saturates this hillside. It's all being ejected from up at the top, so it has to come out here and then flow and continue on down and on down and on down. Like a river doesn't flow uphill, you know? So it goes around, it went around this way. There's a break point right here to divert most of the water around to this side and to keep most of it going this way, the rest of it. So that you don't have water standing and falling in right here to the house or laying in a divot here. This is a high point, and you can see it from down there. So the point was that, you know, this is an issue that's been going on, and somebody got their, twisted up about it a little bit. And, you know, we just want to show what the facts are, okay? There was something said about there being a low spot on this side, not pictured, and they're talking about this area. Well, this area is not a low spot. It was not a low spot. It is a low spot now simply because, see, this building, the concrete on the base of the building is above the grade. It is above the grass. So this water that stands here that used to use this as the graded drainage, the area from the post out this way, it used to use that for the graded drainage, but it has nowhere to go. So it kind of gets stuck here and it gets pushed out a little bit. So now we have all of that natural rainwater. Then you have the fact that the downspout was added and it dead ends above the concrete. That water has nowhere to go but to pound straight down. So now you have this water coming and it's blocked, can't get by the building. And then you have all that extra water dumping out, which in turn pushes this water back this way, which erodes the soil away, erodes the ground away. Then this stuff becomes just a stagnant pool for bacteria and mosquitoes and infestation and disease, and it kills the grass. Now, like I said, you're going to have water here from the runoff of the road and the hill above, but you have to treat that stuff. You have to deal with that. This is created by that building blocking the drainage. There's no drainage. So now it goes down and runs up a little bit. On the other side of that concrete down there, there's about 6 inches out of the ground. So that tells you that from here to the other side, there's a 6-inch drop in the grade, which means that the water is going to run that way. So now what happened was that they blocked off the drainage. The water couldn't get anywhere because the downspouts not necessary. I mean, the distance from this point to this point is relatively the same as from this point to that point. And there's a downspout there, and there's a downspout here. And if you split the difference to the middle, this downspout wasn't necessary. And you can go about 60 feet without a downspout. This is just a touch over, but it's not that big of a deal, you know. So what I did is plug the downspout off, slope this up so it's running down more this way, and it'll return out and go down here. Now, had they did a French drain under this and had returned this downspout out so that it wasn't just pounding water down here, I mean, it's just blowing anywhere from 60 to 150 gallons of water every rainstorm right here. So we filled this hole in, which was about a foot in diameter, about 10 inches deep. We filled all of this in because it was super low and all standing water in here. So now I've raised all this up. It has to be at the concrete level. I don't like that, but in order to get the slope away, so I can have this teeny little divot I got right here to get this massive water out, running right this direction. And you can clearly see. Let's walk the water path. You can clearly see it. You know, you can clearly see the water exiting the hill here, just like I said. Boom, right here. It runs out this way, and because that's all screwed up, we're going to fix that later. We got to get this trash out of here. Got the building out of here a few days ago. Blah 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 blah. A lot of work to do. So here's the other side. Here's the runoff water running directly this way. Guess what? Boom, boom, boom. Where's it go? Right into this building. Right into this big block right here. So now this water has nowhere to go. Water pounding out of here. Water coming in here into this. It's all sloshed around. Pushed back, and it dug a big hole here, so we filled that in. This still has to be filled in and graded up so we can push more of that water around this way. And we're probably going to end up taking some of this hillside out a little bit to widen this swell out a little to see if we can avoid putting a French drain in and get that water diverted around there. But you can see here that this concrete is clearly 2 inches above the surface of the ground. So now anything that hits here has no choice because they didn't slope away, they didn't grade anything, right? The downspout, most detrimental thing. Like I said, I addressed that 4 years ago. Here we are still today, and the downspout was still there, but I completely blocked it off. No water ever come out of that thing again. So we're either going to have to do a French drain out here, and get some of that water moved, or hopefully I can just build it up, bring it out this way some more, cut some of this hillside out, flatten this down here a little bit, get my ditch just a little bit wider, and then exit that water out, because I had to build this corner up too, out through here, because this area here was super low, and off of this corner it was high up to here, and then there was another big depression right here. So any water that couldn't make it over here, which is about 2 inches deep in there, just stood there, and again created another stagnant pool. So when this stuff just stands, you know, it gets pushed back, moved away, pushed back, but you can see that the water is coming down there, and it's doing exactly what I'm saying it's doing. It's running right down my little trail right here. Barely any kind of place for it to go, and there's a ton of water. So like I said, the water that stands out here is a result of the road. There's nothing you can do about that. But putting in this building, making a dam to block the graded drainage is what created this other stuff, this other mess that we're dealing with, that I'm dealing with. So, indeed, there is another low spot around the corner, but the grass was the point. This is super low. See how much water's standing here? I mean, look at how much water's standing there. Because this downspout's just a great big hole in the ground. Caused a big problem. So anyway, that's what the facts are. Another thing too, that as this gets beat to shit right here from the water, anywhere the seal is broken, the water's going to get underneath of that, and it's going to permeate through the wood. You can hear that rot starting down there. This one's not so bad, but it gets under here, And there's also a low spot in the concrete right here. So now any water that gets in here runs down the wall. There's a low spot inside that holds water. All of this stuff, you can see what's happening. Water's getting up in there, it's permeating from the bottom up and rotting it out. And the building's only like 6 years old, so, you know. But we're gonna fix all of that stuff. We're gonna get all these squared away, get all this stuff squared away, get all the dirt put in here, try to get this water out as best we can. Do some thatching in here, bring some composting stuff in here and try to get this grass cleaned back up. It's got slow draining clay soil, so that's another hampering situation you got to deal with. But anyway, I don't know anything.